Good afternoon, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and we are here with another retro cover rewind. Now, today we are talking Thongor, Warrior Lost Lemuria, but before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about that property and about the title Creatures on the Loose, which started out in 1971, ran to 1975 for 37 issues, and at first it was a reprint comic mag. It reprinted old horror and monster stories before branching out to more sci-fi and low fantasy fare. And in issue 10, they had the first full appearance of Kull the Conqueror, with, great cover, Herb Trimpe, Marie Severin, and Mori Kuramoto, and just a beauty. And inside the story of Kull was a Bernie Wrightson art issue, which was fantastic. And then it had a backup story about possessed equipment, which was fun. But there we go. This is issue number 10, so this one keeps rising up in price, especially being the first full appearance of Kull in comics, or Kull the Conqueror, whatever you may like to call him. And it eventually got away from its reprint status. It started out with that little one-shot story, but the other story in that was a reprint. And it started featuring characters like Thongor, the Warrior of Lost Lemuria, Gulliver Jones, the Barbarian of Mars, and John Jameson, the Man-Wolf. And it went with those characters until issue 37, and the title went away. So we're going to talk about Thongor, Warrior of Lost Lemuria, which was a Lynn Carter created character, and was actually his first novel published in The Wizard of Lemuria in 1965. So Lynn Carter, his full name was Linwood Ruman Carter. And so he had kind of a spacey name. I'll put a picture of him here. He's kind of a crazy looking dude. He looks like the 70s Doctor Strange to me. He kind of has that face to him, or the Mad Sorcerer. That would be in one of these books. But he worked a lot with L. Sprock de Camp. They did a lot of adaptations and adjustments of the Robert E. Howard Conan stories, which they continued them when they found some that weren't finished, or they wrote their own pastiches. To not great critical acclaim, especially from fans of Conan, who really looked at their version of Conan as an extremely watered down, loosely written, poorly conceived Conan from those two guys. Some people really liked their work. Other people, like I said, the majority have really not cared for it at all. For me, it's hit or miss. Some I think is okay, some I think is not great. But Thongor was supposed to be Marvel's Barbarian, and we're going to read a little excerpt from Roy Thomas's Barbarian Life for you guys to give you kind of a little bit of history of Thongor at Marvel. So it starts out with, yeah, that's right, the first hero we went after was Lynn Carter's recent creation. Thongor had already appeared in several paperbacks. Stan and I were convinced we couldn't offer enough money to secure Conan, who was clearly the original article. I had read enough of L. Sprock de Camp's introduction to the various Conan paperbacks to know that he had started out as a hero in the pulp magazine Weird Tales in the 1930s, and that the Robert E. Howard stories were reprints from 3 decades earlier. Besides, I remember Stan saying that he liked the name Thongor better than Conan anyway. He even liked the name Kull, the moniker of a similar and earlier but less important Robert E. Howard creation, better than Conan. I suppose the fact that the first sword and sorcery book I'd ever happened to read to be Thongor in the City of Magicians had something to do with the choice as well. But though Lynn Carter, whom I knew slightly, expressed interest in a comic book about Thongor, his agent Henry Morrison dragged his feet. Not surprisingly, considering the pitiful amount of money we were offering. $150 was a lot more dough in 1969 than it is now, but it was still no great shakes. Morrison was clearly hoping to get us to double or triple our offer. Clearly, he had never met Martin Goodman. After a little while, I became frustrated by this initial setback. Morrison never turned down the offer. He merely waited, stalled. All right, then one night, near the end of 1969, I picked up the newest Conan paperback titled Conan the Cimmerian. Like virtually all readers, it sported a breathtaking Frazetta cover, and its contents were a combination of Howard's original 1930 stories plus new stories, mostly co-written by the aforementioned L. Sprock de Camp and, surprise, surprise, Lynn Carter. All right, now, up until now, I mostly skimmed the Camp written introductions, and then he goes on talking a little bit more about that. And near the end, I came across the name of one Glenn Lord, listed as a literary executor of the Robert E. Howard estate, and gave his address, a post office box in Pasadena, Texas, and he decided to write him. And to my surprise and delight, Lord's return letter accepted the small sum we were offering because he agreed with the suggestion I'd expressed in my letter, namely that a comic book with its six-figure readership could gain a new and wider audience for Conan and for Robert E. Howard, and thus bring additional readers to the paperbacks. And with that deal with Glenn Lord, sealed the fate on bringing Thongor into his own title at Marvel Comics. Unfortunately for Lynn Carter, his agent couldn't see past the initial sum money, where Glenn Lord had the vision to know that being in a comic with that kind of fan base would expand upon sales for his books and Robert E. Howard's estate. So it's all about people with a vision, right? But Thongor did appear in some Marvel comics for 8 issues of Creatures on the Loose, and we are going to just look at those covers now. And again, this is a character that's very much a Conan clone. He's from a lost time and a lost place. He battles against sorcerers, monsters, always looking out for the women, and very, very much a similar character. Kind of a copycat of Conan with a few key differences. But at the end of the day, when you read this, you almost feel like you're reading a Conan tale. But these covers are a treat, and I've stalled long enough. Let's get to them. So issue 22, the first issue and first appearance of Thongor, Warrior of Lost Lemuria, with a beautiful Jim Steranko cover. All right. So as you can see, that's just a beauty. And again, the border covers, which I love so much from that era. So there we go. Great Jim Steranko cover. And then we go to issue 23. All right, so we have a John Romita and Mori Kuramato cover. Again, just low fantasy goodness, man. You got one man fighting a monster, and it's just him against the monster, all right? You don't have whole kingdoms in the balance. It's just man against whatever he's up against at that time. A great low fantasy staple. Issue number 24. Great art by John Romita, Ernie Chan, and Mori Kuramato on the cover. And you got Thongor and a woman in the throes of a deadly creature and more creatures below them. The peril is dire. Moving on to issue number 25. Again, another one of my favorite cover artists from then is Gil Kane, and he also had work on this cover by Frank Giacoia, Mori Kuramato, and John Costanza. All staples of this age of comics. All right, great Bronze Age goodness. All right, still a great border cover. And this era of comics just really speaks to me. I think it's the greatest age. I think it's the most creative age to me. Maybe it's because of when I grew up. I'm sure someone would argue the silver and the gold were, and they wouldn't be wrong on their assessment either. All right, issue number 26. We have John Romita, Tony Mortallaro, and Danny Crespi on the cover. I got to put a new bag on this one. That one's done. But just a great cover. Again, you got Thongor, the barbarian, fighting, or the warrior, fighting a creature, and of course a woman in peril. So all great staples of low fantasy fiction from back in the day. Then we move to issue 27, which I think is a great standout cover, especially with this creature's face right here. It's just awesome. And this is a Vicente Alcazar cover, and it's just a beauty. It's nothing but savage goodness on this. A warrior in the midst of battle, fighting for his life. All right, everything you want in a low fantasy book. Now we go to issue 28, the penultimate Thongor issue. And this, of course, is John Romita cover. So we got 3 of those. And again, just a lot going on. You got a wizard, you got warriors, you got a damsel in distress, and you got Thongor, Warrior of Lost Lemuria, in the middle, trying to sort it all out and survive the day. All right, just greatness right there. And then the last appearance of Thongor here is Thongor, Day of the Dragon Kings. And this is issue 29 with a Gil Kane and Ralph Reese cover. And just the beauty. Again, Thongor battling creatures, man, half beast creatures. You got your woman in the background. Staple of these little fantasy covers back then. A man, a woman, a creature in peril. But that's it, guys. That's the covers for Thongor, Warrior of Lost Lemuria, the Lynn Carter property. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this retro cover rewind. I certainly had fun showing the issues. I've had more fun reading them. Great books. If you've read them, let me know in the comments below. And let me know your opinion of this little 8-issue run. If you plan on getting it now and reading it, let me know that also. It's been fun doing these retro covers. And a comic book worm went and bought all the Starfighters from one I did before, and he loved it. So it's always great to hear that something you showed connected with someone in the community, and they ended up getting great joy out of it as well. But that's it for today, guys. Until next time, keep it casual.